Imagine, um, if you will, just a vast, high-altitude alpine desert.
Right, completely isolated.
Exactly. It's midnight. You were standing out there in the San Luis Valley.
Straddling that border of south-central Colorado and northern New Mexico.
Yeah, and the air is just sub-freezing,
Yeah.
biting at your skin. It is completely suffocatingly dark out there.
Except for, maybe the faint starlight reflecting off the sand.
Right, just sand and scrub brush for miles. And the silence is heavy. It's that kind of quiet that literally makes your ears ring.
Oh, I know that exact kind of silence.
So suddenly, a motion-activated trail camera, which is mounted to this twisted pinyon pine, just clicks on.
Okay.
And it captures a figure gliding silently across the desert floor. But, if you're picturing a mountain lion or a stray coyote, just erase that from your mind entirely.
Because it's nothing like that.
Not even close. What the lens captures is a massive 10-foot-tall bipedal entity.
10 feet tall.
Yeah, nearly 10 feet. And it has these impossibly elongated limbs. And the worst part, it is completely, horrifyingly faceless.
It really is pure nightmare fuel when you look at the raw data.
It is. But here is the part that will actually keep you awake at night. The detail that just shatters our entire understanding of reality.
The thermal paradox.
Exactly. The camera's thermal sensor, which is designed to pick up the body heat of, like, a field mouse from 50 yards away, it registers absolutely nothing.
Zero. Just a total absence of heat.
Right. The figure has enough physical mass to block the background starlight, which proves it's a solid, opaque object occupying physical space, but it registers as an entity of pure cold.
Which is, according to every known law of biology and thermodynamics, literally impossible.
Right. It shouldn't exist.
It shouldn't. It represents a definitive fracture in our understanding of the physical universe.
And that terrifying question is exactly what we were hunting today.
Because when you look at the raw data extracted from that specific night, you are confronted with a massive paradox.
Our mission for this deep dive is to basically strip away the mundane. We're ignoring the easily debunked hoaxes and plunging entirely into the most bizarre, unexplained aspects of this case.
The really mysterious stuff.
Exactly. We are looking at the dark angel of the San Luis Valley, and we have a massive stack of sources to get through with you today.
And none of them are your standard cryptozoology blog posts either.
No, not at all. We are looking at centuries-old historical UAP sighting logs.
We've got deeply technical geophysical surveys from the USGS.
Right, the United States Geological Survey. We also have these advanced theoretical academic papers on digital anomalies and the voice of the machine.
And then there's the twist.
Oh man, the twist. In a direction you will absolutely not see coming, we have a completely overwhelming, seemingly unrelated mountain of equestrian news.
Horse racing data. It's wild.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to really grasp the gravity of what that trail camera captured, we need to talk about the environment it was sitting in.
Yeah, you have to understand the San Luis Valley itself. It's what geophysicists and anomalous phenomena researchers classify as a high strangeness corridor.
A high strangeness corridor, like a hotspot.
Exactly. Geographically, it's an anomaly in itself. It's a massive tectonic rift valley flanked by the jagged peaks of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains on one side.
And the San Juan Mountains on the other, right?
Correct. It's essentially this high-altitude basin. And what we see historically in this specific geographic bowl is a localized fracturing of reality.
Like the rules just don't apply there.
Basically, yeah. The rules that govern standard biology, the bedrock laws of thermodynamics, and even the basic predictable functions of modern digital surveillance seem to just, well, they break down here.
Okay, let's start right at ground zero, because we cannot move forward until we fully examine the inciting incident.
The trail cam capture.
Right, the trail cam. This is the moment that completely breaks our understanding of biological life. The footage isn't long, but it is incredibly dense with terrifying data.
So dense. Let's walk through the morphology for everyone listening at home.
Yeah, let's paint a picture.
Yeah.
We are looking at an optical capture of an entity that stands approximately 3 meters tall.
Which is nearly 10 feet.
10 feet tall. And it walks on 2 legs. But the proportions are completely wrong for any known primate or, hominid.
The limb elongation is perhaps the most unsettling physical characteristic.
It's so creepy.
It really is. To give you a clear mental picture, imagine a human standing perfectly upright. Now, stretch their arms so drastically that their fingertips literally brush the dirt while their spine remains completely straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the entity possesses these massive, sweeping appendages that suggest a range of motion and a locomotive style we just don't see in terrestrial bipeds.
Right, it doesn't lumber like a bear on its hind legs.
No, it glides.
The movement is described as fluid, almost like it's suspended, which makes the sheer size of it even more unnatural.
Absolutely.
And then there is the face. Or, well, the complete absence of a face.
That's the part that really gets me.
Same here. The optical sensor on this camera was high resolution. The moonlight and ambient starlight were sufficient to capture texture.
But there's nothing there.
Nothing. There are absolutely no discernible ocular cavities for eyes, no nasal ridge, there is no oral cavity or mouth.
It is just a smooth, uniform, featureless surface where a face should logically be.
Which is terrifying. And then there's the detail that actually gives this thing its name.
The wings.
Right, on its back, protruding from the shoulder blade area, are these dark, folded, textured structures. They heavily resemble large, leathery wings.
Hence the local moniker, the Dark Angel.
Exactly, which introduces a whole new layer of aerodynamic impossibility.
Right, given the entity's mass. But, the morphology is really only the first dead end in this investigation.
That gets weirder.
Much weirder. The true dead end, the one that makes biologists just throw their hands up in frustration, is the thermal paradox.
Okay, let's break down the technology for a moment, because this is crucial.
So, standard high-end trail cameras, the kind used by serious hunters and researchers, use a dual trigger system.
Right.
They have an optical motion detection algorithm, which looks for changes in the pixels of the visual image.
So if something moves across the screen, it sees the pixels change and starts recording.
Exactly. And that part worked perfectly. It saw the entity. But these cameras also rely on a passive infrared, or PIR, sensor.
Let's pause and translate that, because I want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
A PIR sensor doesn't see light the way our eyes do, right?
No, not at all.
It detects heat energy radiating off an object.
Correct. It operates based on a fundamental principle of thermodynamics known as the Stefan-Boltzmann law.
Okay, wait, the Stefan-Boltzmann law. Break that down.
Without getting bogged down in the complex mathematics, this law basically states that the thermal energy radiated by an object is proportional to the fourth power of its absolute temperature.
Okay, so what does that mean in plain English?
To put it simply, everything in the universe that has physical mass and isn't sitting at absolute zero emits thermal radiation.
Everything.
Everything. If you are standing out in the snow, your body heat is radiating outward. Even an ice cube emits a measurable thermal signature compared to, say, liquid nitrogen.
Right.
So for any object to have enough physical density to block the background starlight, which this entity did, it proves it was not a trick of the lens or a translucent hologram.
It must exist in physical space.
Yes, and if it exists in physical space, it must emit thermal radiation.
Because it's a solid object interacting with the environment.
Exactly. But for this 10-foot entity to fail to register at all on a thermal scan, we are forced into two impossible scenarios.
What are they?
Either its surface temperature perfectly, and I mean down to the microdegree, matches the sub-freezing ambient environment of the midnight alpine desert,
This is crazy.
or its emissivity, meaning its physical ability to emit infrared energy, is effectively zero in the 8 to 14 micrometer range that the PIR sensor monitors.
Okay, wow.
And for a living, breathing biological organism, both of those scenarios are physically impossible.
Well, I have to push back on this a little bit, because my mind immediately goes to the most logical terrestrial explanation.
The reptile theory.
Exactly. Cryptozoologists and armchair sleuths always throw out the reptile theory. What if it's just cold-blooded?
It's the most common counter-argument.
Right, because we know snakes and lizards can sometimes blend into the thermal background of their environment because they rely on external heat. Could this just be a massive, undiscovered ectotherm roaming the high desert?
It's a fair question, but it completely falls apart under physiological scrutiny. Let's consider the biomechanics required here.
Okay.
You have a creature of massive size, 10 feet tall, moving fluidly with a bipedal gait. That requires an absolutely staggering amount of metabolic energy.
Just to stand up.
Just to stand up. It needs adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, just to contract those massive muscles, to pump whatever fluid serves as its blood, and to power a nervous system capable of coordinating that movement.
And making all that energy creates heat.
Invariably. The second law of thermodynamics demands it. Even an ectothermic, cold-blooded creature of that scale would produce a massive amount of internal heat as a byproduct of that kinetic energy.
Because it's doing so much work.
Exactly. You cannot move a 500-pound mass of tissue across a freezing desert without generating a thermal bloom.
Wow.
Unless this creature is utilizing some highly advanced, non-thermal metabolic pathway that is completely alien to Earth's evolutionary tree, a biological explanation just cannot be sustained.
Wait, let me just wrap my head around that. You are saying that a 10-foot creature moving fluidly through the desert without generating a single joule of body heat
Yes.
is basically the equivalent of a massive diesel semi-truck engine running silently at 70 miles an hour, while the engine block remains perfectly ice-cold to the touch.
That's a perfect analogy.
That isn't just weird biology. That is a complete violation of the fundamental laws of physics. It shouldn't be able to exist.
Which leads us to a massive paradigm shift in how we investigate this. We keep assuming the camera failed.
Right, like a glitch.
We assume there was a glitch that prevented the heat from being recorded. But what if the lack of heat isn't a failure of the machine at all?
What do you mean?
What if this thermal invisibility is the literal intended signature of something entirely non-Newtonian?
Something outside of normal physics.
Something that operates outside the rules of mass, energy, and biological respiration as we currently understand them.
Okay, so if it's not a biological animal and is not a person in a suit, we're essentially left staring into the abyss. What is it?
That's the million-dollar question.
To even begin to formulate a theory, we have to pull the lens back. We need to look at the historical timeline of the San Luis Valley to see if this dark angel is just an isolated freak anomaly.
Or if it is part of a larger, much more terrifying pattern woven into the fabric of the region.
Because if you look at the historical data, this valley has been terrifying people for hundreds of years.
The historical continuity of the strangeness is really what elevates this from a single anomalous trail cam picture to a geographic crisis. We have Spanish colonial settlement records dating back to the late 1600s detailing inexplicable, highly maneuverable lights in the sky that the conquistadors believed were spiritual omens.
Wow, so all the way back to the 1600s.
But the modern era of high strangeness really kicked off in 1967 with the infamous case of Snippy the horse.
Oh, the Snippy case is legendary.
Yeah.
And it is so vital to understand why the valley has this reputation.
It really is the anchor point.
For those who aren't familiar, this happened near Alamosa, Colorado. A 3-year-old Appaloosa named Lady, though the press dubbed her Water, Snippy was found dead in a brush-covered pasture.
That was bizarre.
Totally bizarre.
Yeah.
This wasn't a standard predator kill. The animal was found with the flesh of its head and neck stripped completely away to the bone.
Just gone.
Just gone. And I don't mean torn or chewed like a coyote got to it. The cuts were described as having surgical precision. The edges of the skin were cauterized.
And the environmental context of that scene is what really parallels our trail cam footage. The investigators noted a complete lack of blood on the ground.
None at all.
None. A 3/4-ton animal was exsanguinated, yet the sand beneath it was bone dry.
That is insane.
Furthermore, there were no tracks around the body, no coyote prints, no human boot prints, no tire tracks.
Nothing.
Just a hauntingly pristine scene accompanied by a strong medicinal odor in the air that witnesses compared to formaldehyde.
So you have an anomalous event that leaves zero physical evidence of its arrival or departure, defies logical explanation, and occurs in the exact same valley.
Exactly.
And from 1967 onward, the valley just seems to crack open. You get this escalating wave of sighting.
Bills and builds.
In 2000, the phenomenon was so prevalent that a local resident named Judy Messeline actually opened a UFO watchtower in Hooper, Colorado.
Just because of the sheer volume of traffic.
Right. Simply because people were pulling over on the highway every night to watch the sky. By 2011, she had tracked a statistical peak of 59 verified, distinct, unidentified aerial phenomena sightings from that single watchtower in just 1 year.
The airspace is undoubtedly active. But the most critical parallel to our ground-level Dark Angel incident occurred much more recently.
The 2019 incident.
Yes. In 2019, near Ute Mountain, just south of the Colorado border within the valley system, 2 hunters experienced a profound encounter.
And we have to emphasize who these guys are.
Right. I want to emphasize that these men, including a hunter named Josh Brinkley, were not UFO enthusiasts looking for a thrill.
They weren't out there hunting for Bigfoot.
No, they were experienced outdoorsmen, capable trackers, and staunch skeptics. They know what a bear looks like in the dark. They know what an elk looks like.
Right. These are guys who spend their lives reading the wilderness. And what they reported seeing completely broke them.
It changed their whole worldview.
They stated they were glassing a ridge when they spotted 2 entities moving through the brush. And the estimated height. About 3 meters.
10 feet tall.
10 feet tall. again.
The morphological overlap is striking, but there is a distinct, unsettling difference from our trail cam entity.
What's the difference?
The figures Brinkley and his partner observed possessed oversized, bulbous heads. But crucially, they were wearing what the hunters described as long, flowing hoods or cloaks.
Okay, which introduces a massive element of intent.
How so?
Well, wild animals do not manufacture clothing. If you are a 10-foot-tall biological cryptid like a giant ape or a relic hominid, you don't wear a cloak.
That's a very good point.
A hood suggests a deliberate attempt at concealment or protection from the elements. It suggests higher intelligence.
Yes.
It paints a picture that contrasts sharply with the completely naked, featureless, mechanical nature of the dark angel caught on the camera.
It does. It suggests we might be dealing with a spectrum of phenomena, or perhaps different iterations of the same underlying cause.
Like different models of the same thing.
Maybe. But the 2019 encounter didn't end with the hooded figures. We have to discuss the circus tent anomaly.
Oh my gosh, this part of the report is so jarring, it almost feels like a hallucination.
It's incredibly strange.
The hunters reported that near the location of these hooded giants, they saw a massive structure. They described it as looking like a giant circus tent or a massive temporary movie set pavilion.
We are talking 50 to 60 feet across.
And the impossible nature of this structure is its transience, right?
Exactly. Erection of a 60-foot canvas or synthetic structure in the remote backcountry requires massive logistical support.
You can't just pop it up like a camping tent.
No, you need trucks, heavy rigging, guy lines, and a massive disturbance of the local topsoil.
Right.
Yet the hunters reported that the structure appeared in an area they knew to be empty, and when they attempted to observe it later, it had completely vanished.
Just gone.
It was simply gone, leaving no trace of heavy machinery or disturbed earth.
Okay, let's stop and look at this objectively. Because if you tell me there are 10-foot creatures running around in cloaks and massive temporary structures appearing and disappearing overnight without leaving a single tire track,
It paints a certain picture.
it sounds way less like a herd of elusive woodland monsters and a lot more like a highly advanced temporary military installation.
It certainly does.
Right. Are we obsessing over a cryptid when we should be looking for a shadow government black project? Could the Dark Angel just be a next-generation stealth drone being field-tested in the desolate valley?
The military tech theory holds significant weight, especially considering the region's proximity to various restricted aerospace testing grounds in the American Southwest.
Like Area 51, Dugway, those kinds of places.
Exactly. But if we dig into the most scientifically grounded yet utterly bizarre theory in our source stack, we find an alternative that actually marries both the cryptids and the military theories into something far more strange.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
What if neither the biological monster theory nor the secret military drone theory is entirely correct? What if the valley itself is the machine generating these entities?
The Earth as a battery. I was absolutely captivated by this theory when going through the research, but it gets incredibly dense.
It's heavy geology.
Yeah. I want to try and break down the USGS data here because it is the linchpin to this whole idea. The United States Geological Survey didn't go out looking for monsters, right? They went out to map the dirt.
That's all they do.
They conducted extensive transient electromagnetic, or TEM, soundings across the valley, specifically focusing on the areas near the Great Sand Dunes and the Alamosa Basin.
Right. They utilized a specialized piece of equipment called a dual EM421 sensor.
Okay, what does that do?
Essentially, researchers dragged this long cylindrical sled across the valley floor. The sensor emits an electromagnetic field into the ground and measures the secondary magnetic field that bounces back.
Like sonar, but for electricity.
Precisely. It allows geologists to map the subsurface conductivity of the Earth without having to drill core samples. They are literally mapping how wide the dirt carries an electrical current.
And what they found under the San Luis Valley is a geological shocker.
It's completely unique.
The surface layer, where you and I would walk, is comprised of highly insulating sand and gravel.
Yeah.
In electrical terms, it has a resistivity of between 100 and 1,000 plus ohmmeters.
Which is very high.
Yeah, to put that in perspective, it acts like a giant, miles-wide rubber blanket. It does not want to conduct electricity.
Not at all.
But directly beneath that insulating blanket, sitting deep in the basin, is a massive hydrologic unit known in geology as blue clay.
And this is where it gets interesting.
Right, because this blue clay, which is saturated with specific mineral salts and water, is highly conductive. It registers at 10 ohm meters or less.
You have perfectly described the anatomy of a capacitor.
A capacitor.
Yes, you have a massive, highly efficient insulator sitting flush against a massive, highly efficient conductor.
Okay, wow.
Now, zoom out and look at the structural container holding this dirt. The valley is a tectonic rift boundary. It is framed by deep volcanic bedrock.
Right.
The crust here is fractured, and geothermal pools are scattered across the region, providing constant thermal and kinetic energy.
So you have tectonic plates grinding together, which we know can create piezoelectric effects.
Exactly.
Literally squeezing quartz crystals in the rock to generate immense electrical voltage. And all that voltage is being pumped into this massive underground layer of conductive clay, which is trapped beneath an insulating layer of sand.
The entire San Luis Valley is a natural resonant cavity. It is a giant geological battery that stores massive amounts of telluric currents.
Telluric currents being natural electric currents moving underground.
Correct. And under the right atmospheric conditions, say a sub-freezing, dry midnight with specific barometric pressure that capacitor discharges.
Meaning the valley itself arcs, like a giant spark plug.
Yes.
So you're suggesting that this entity, this 10-foot faceless dark angel that leaves no thermal signature, could be nothing more than concentrated static electricity.
Essentially.
A localized, semi-stable plasma manifesting as a solid object.
We refer to it as the solid-state plasma hypothesis. A geophysically induced electromagnetic field could ionize the local atmosphere, generating a complex, contained plasma construct.
That is wild.
But think about it. This elegantly and scientifically solves the thermal paradox that stumped us earlier.
Because it's not alive.
Right. A plasma or EM construct existing at a specific, highly charged energy state wouldn't emit heat in the infrared range that a PIR sensor detects.
It wouldn't be cold-blooded because it has no blood.
Exactly. It has no biology. It is a ghost made of ionized gas and electromagnetism.
That is just staggering. And if we look at the physical description of the entity, those dark, folded wings on its back, this theory provides a completely non-biological explanation.
It recontextualizes everything.
Right. If this is a plasma construct, or perhaps an advanced, highly classified military drone that is utilizing the valley's natural EM field to power itself, those wings aren't for flying.
What would they be for?
They could be cooling radiators for a dense power core, or a foldable, deployable sensor array, or even active electronic countermeasures designed to spoof radar.
It recasts the entire phenomenon. But if we accept the premise that the dark angel is an electromagnetic construct, whether it is a natural discharge of the Earth or an artificially engineered drone,
Yeah.
we have to examine how it interacts with our observation tools.
Yeah.
Because it didn't just walk silently past the trail camera.
No, it didn't.
It aggressively interacted with it. It broke the camera.
This brings us to the digital distortion, which might be my favorite piece of evidence in the whole stack.
It's fascinating footage.
When you actually watch the raw trail cam footage, it is not a clean, crisp video of a creature walking by.
Not at all.
The file is heavily corrupted, the pixels tear violently, the image warps and stutters, the frame rate drops. It looks like a corrupted hard drive.
From a purely technical standpoint, an intense localized electromagnetic field like the one we just theorized makes up the entity's body would naturally wreak havoc on modern digital sensors.
Because of the electronics.
Exactly. Trail cameras use CMOS or CCD sensors, which convert photons of light into electrons. A massive EM field passing within a few feet of that sensor would induce rogue electrical currents across the silicon chip.
It would just scramble the
It
electronics.
scramble the electrons entirely. Furthermore, it interferes with the direct linear transformation, or DLT, algorithms.
Okay, let's do a quick ELI5 on DLT algorithms because it's crucial.
Sure.
Basically, DLT is the complex math the camera's processor uses to translate a flat 2D grid of pixels into an understanding of 3D spatial depth, right?
That's a great summary.
It's how the camera knows an object is moving toward it, rather than just getting bigger on a flat screen.
Exactly. The EM field scrambles that mathematical matrix. The camera literally loses its ability to calculate space and time, resulting in the tearing and warping of the video file.
That makes total sense scientifically.
However, there is a deeply provocative, advanced theoretical paper in our sources that demands we look at this distortion not as a mere side effect, but as the primary event.
Yes, this paper.
It proposes a concept called the Vox ex machina theory.
The voice of the machine. I read this paper 3 times because it is a wild philosophical ride.
It's very deep.
It ties the modern digital corruption of our trail cam directly back to the 1960s electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, experiments.
Conducted by researchers like Konstantin Raudive and Friedrich Jurgensen.
Right. The historical parallel is fascinating. Raudive didn't use digital cameras, obviously. He used simple germanium diodes, radiostatic, and magnetic tape.
His goal was to capture disembodied voices from what he called the outside.
Signals or entities that human biological senses simply could not perceive.
Because our senses are limited.
Exactly. The human eye only sees a tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our ears only hear a narrow band of acoustic frequencies.
But machines do not have these evolutionary blinders.
They don't have biological filters telling them what is and isn't real.
Precisely. The Vox ex machina theory posits that machines, because they are devoid of human psychological limitations, act as incredibly sensitive, objective, mystical mediums.
Like a digital Ouija board.
In a way, yes. They can see the math of the universe that is hidden from us.
Which makes the camera glitch so incredibly profound. Think about it. The Dark Angel left absolutely zero physical tracks in the sand.
None.
No footprints crushing the sagebrush, no disturbed dirt, no hair caught on a branch, no scat, nothing.
It's a clean scene.
So the digital corruption burned into that video file is its only true, tangible footprint.
This is where the theory takes a radical leap. It argues that the glitch is not a failure of the camera to record the entity.
Okay.
The glitch is the entity. It is a parapraxis.
A parapraxis, like a digital Freudian slip. I have to pause here. Are you telling me this paper is suggesting the camera has a subconscious?
Not a conscious mind in the human sense, but a rigid set of programming rules that experiences a catastrophic, irreconcilable conflict.
Break that down for me.
The machine is programmed with a singular purpose: to record baseline reality. But it is suddenly confronted with an extra-dimensional or non-Newtonian presence that fundamentally violates baseline reality.
So it panics.
Effectively. The resulting distortion, the lossy artifacts, the digital tearing, the pixelation is the camera's desperate attempt to manifest the unexplainable into a visual medium.
Wow.
It performs an automatic writing of sorts, translating an imperceptible ghost into a language we can see. Error codes.
Here's where it gets really interesting and a little bit terrifying.
What's that?
Are we saying the camera didn't just passively malfunction because a magnet walked by, but that the camera was actively forced into a bizarre collaboration with the entity?
It's a haunting thought.
Like the machine itself was hijacked, acting as an unwilling psychic medium to draw a portrait of something that shouldn't exist.
That is the exact implication of the theory. The machine and the anomaly merge for a fraction of a second to create the glitch.
That gives me chills.
But if we accept that the entity lacks a standard physical biological body and leaves only digital footprints in our silicon sensors, it forces us to ask a geographic question.
Where does it go when it's not corrupting our trail cameras?
Exactly. Where is the origin point of this phenomenon?
And to answer that, we have to dive into the deepest, weirdest, and oldest local folklore of the San Luis Valley. We have to talk about the imposing shadow of Blanca Peak.
Blanca Peak is not just any mountain. It is a massive dominant peak in the Sangre de Cristo Range, towering at 14,344 feet.
It's huge.
And for decades, it has been the absolute epicenter of prominent, stubborn hearsay regarding a secret subterranean facility.
A secret base inside the mountain.
Locals, indigenous populations, and modern researchers continually point to the mountain due to the frequent corroborated sightings of specific UAPs.
And not just lights in the sky, right?
No, physical cigar-shaped craft. And they are repeatedly observed flying directly into the vicinity of the mountain, sometimes appearing to phase seamlessly into the solid rock face itself.
So the obvious question becomes one of association. Is the Dark Angel an occupant of these cigar-shaped craft who just stepped out for a walk?
Or is it a biological or spiritual guardian of the mountain?
Or, tying it back to the military theory, is it a biomechanical drone deployed from a highly classified subterranean hangar buried deep inside the granite of Blanca Peak?
To find the connective tissue between the mountain base and the ground-level entities, we have to revisit the UFO watchtower.
Judy Metzeline's place.
Yes. She and various visiting researchers claim that psychics have consistently identified two specific localized vortexes on the valley floor not far from the peak.
Vortexes, okay.
These vortexes are described in metaphysical terms as thin spots in the fabric of space-time, acting as transit points or energetic doorways.
Like portals.
And critically, for our investigation, these vortexes are said to be actively guarded by imperceptible entities.
Imperceptible entities, meaning things you cannot see with the naked eye, things that perhaps don't register on a thermal camera.
Like a faceless, electrically charged giant.
The correlation is impossible to ignore. And what elevates this from modern New Age speculation to a foundational mystery is that we can trace this exact concept directly back to the ancient Native American legends of the region.
This is the historical bedrock of the whole phenomenon.
Long before Spanish conquistadors, long before trail cameras, and long before military black projects, the indigenous oral traditions, specifically the Hopi and Zuni folklore, spoke of the ant people.
The ant people. I was waiting for this connection because it really ties the entire room together.
It totally does. For anyone unfamiliar, the Hopi creation myth speaks of multiple worlds or ages of Earth.
Right.
And during periods of planetary upheaval cataclysms of fire and ice, the Hopi ancestors were supposedly led to safety deep underground by a race of beings known as the Anu Sanem, or the ant people.
And when you analyze the physical descriptions of the ant people passed down through centuries of oral tradition, the morphological parallels to our modern trail cam footage are staggering.
How so?
The Anu Sanem are described as possessing incredibly thin, elongated bodies with disproportionately long limbs.
Like hands touching the ground.
Exactly. They're said to have large, bulbous heads, which directly mirrors the 2019 Ute mountain hunter encounter, and they reside in massive, cavernous structures deep beneath the earth.
Specifically pointing to the regions under the Great Sand Dunes and Blanca Peak.
Think about the magnitude of what we are synthesizing here.
It's massive.
You have a centuries-old sacred oral tradition describing elongated subterranean beings. You have modern, skeptical hunters describing 10-foot, large-headed entities in cloaks appearing next to impossible structures.
And you have a digital camera glitching out as it tries to record a faceless, elongated giant that emits no heat.
They might just be 3 different cultural lenses.
Mythology, human observation, and digital surveillance.
All desperately trying to describe the exact same persistent subterranean inhabitants of the San Luis Valley.
It is a profound convergence of data points, and yet it leads us to the most perplexing question of this entire investigation.
The dead end.
Right. With all of this compelling, overlapping data from USGS geological surveys to ancient folklore, from terrifying trail cam footage to multiple eyewitness testimonies, why isn't the Dark Angel of the San Luis Valley globally famous?
It's a glaring omission in pop culture.
Why isn't this entity a household name alongside Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, or the Chupacabra? Why isn't there a massive Wikipedia page and 10 documentaries about it?
Because of the ultimate and perhaps most sinister dead end in our source stack.
The informational blackout.
Yes. If you, the listener, pull out your phone right now and try to search the digital record for the Dark Angel cryptid or the San Luis Valley Dark Angel, you will not find the truth.
No, you will.
You will hit an impenetrable, mathematically perfect, algorithmic wall.
Oh my gosh, yes. The equestrian search chaff. You guys, if you're listening to this, this is the most bizarre, frustrating, and suspiciously brilliant twist in the entire story.
It really is unbelievable.
If you Google Dark Angel, you do not get a 10-foot-tall, faceless plasma entity that defies the laws of thermodynamics.
You get a horse.
You get a horse.
And not just any horse. You get a world-renowned, incredibly prolific Irish thoroughbred stallion named Dark Angel.
Right.
He stands at the Yeomanstown Stud in County Kildare, Ireland. And the sheer volume of data, journalism, and financial reporting generated by this single horse and his hundreds of progeny is staggering.
It completely, utterly suffocates the cryptid data. Our source stack is literally overflowing with thoroughbred daily news articles.
Wall-to-wall horse news.
You go online looking for high strangeness UAP sightings or underground plasma entities, and instead you end up reading deeply emotional articles about the tragic breakdown of a horse named Maple Leaf Mel at the test stakes in Saratoga.
Or you find yourself scrolling through 80 pages of federal lawsuits involving the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, or ASISA.
Right. Or you're reading about stud fees and yearling auctions at Tattersalls. It is a literal mountain of equine news.
In intelligence and data science circles, we refer to this as linguistic noise or algorithmic chaff.
Algorithmic chaff. I love that term.
Think of an airplane dropping thousands of strips of aluminum foil to confuse incoming radar missiles. The radar can't see the plane because it's blinded by the foil.
And the internet search algorithms operate the same way.
Exactly. The legitimate, terrifying reports of the cryptids are buried under millions of race results, jockey interviews, and breeding statistics.
It just drowns everything else out.
It makes it mathematically nearly impossible for an uninitiated researcher to find official reports on the San Luis Valley entity without drowning in unrelated horse racing data.
Okay, wait. I know exactly where this is going. There is a sub-theory here in our sources, and it is incredibly spicy.
The obfuscation theory.
Yes. Are we seriously suggesting that a shadow government agency or a Black Ops military branch or a private aerospace contractor running advanced drone tests at Blanca Peak intentionally named their highly classified 10-foot stealth project Dark Angel, specifically to exploit search engine algorithms?
It's the ultimate conspiracy theory.
Did they really name a military secret after a famous Irish racehorse just to hide their anomalous surveillance data behind an impenetrable wall of thoroughbred stud reports? Is that actually plausible, or is that too tinfoil hat, even for us?
I will admit it sounds absurd on its face. It sounds like paranoid fiction. But consider the ruthless elegance of the tactic.
Okay, let's look at the tactic.
If you are a clandestine organization trying to hide a highly visible, highly anomalous project in the modern digital age, you cannot simply delete the data.
Because deleting it leaves a trail.
Exactly. Deleting data from the internet leaves a void, a 404 error. And in the digital age, voids attract intense scrutiny. Researchers look for the gaps.
So what do you do instead?
So instead of deleting, you flood the zone. You name your black project after an already trending, highly mundane, globally documented topic that generates millions of daily search hits.
Wow.
It is the ultimate form of digital camouflage. You hide the anomalous, terrifying machine behind the majestic biological horse.
Because the algorithm prioritizes the popular thing.
Yes. If someone leaks the name Dark Angel, the algorithm ensures the public only ever sees the stallion.
That is devious. It is terrifyingly brilliant. And if that theory holds any water, it means the glitch we've been talking about isn't just localized to the CMOS sensor on a single trail camera in the desert.
No, it's much bigger.
The glitch is systemic. The glitch has been engineered into our entire informational ecosystem.
It's a chilling thought.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's zoom out and recap what we've unpacked today, because the reality of the San Luis Valley case is deeply, profoundly unsettling.
It really challenges everything we know.
We have a 10-foot entity roaming an alpine desert that completely violates the foundational laws of thermodynamics. It has enough physical mass to block out the stars, but emits zero heat.
It leaves no physical tracks in the sand.
It corrupts digital sensors through intense electromagnetic resonance, acting as a disruptive voice in the machine.
It shares the exact, bizarre morphological traits of the ancient ant people legends that have been told for centuries.
And any modern attempt to digitally investigate it is effectively neutralized by an impenetrable algorithmic wall of thoroughbred horse racing data.
It forces us to confront the severe limitations of our own biological perception and our reliance on digital technology.
It really does.
As researchers, as a society, we keep waiting for these entities, whether they are extra-dimensional beings, advanced military drones, or localized solid-state plasmas, to fully physically materialize so we can capture them, dissect them, and study them under our scientific terms.
We want to put them in a lab.
Right. But the San Luis Valley data raises a chilling counter-question.
What's that?
What if we are waiting for something that is evolving in the opposite direction?
Evolving backwards.
What if the Dark Angel and anomalous phenomena like it are slowly, deliberately shedding their physical mass entirely?
Oh, wow.
Perhaps they're transitioning into purely digital or electromagnetic entities, ghosts in the code, that will soon only exist within the data streams of our own machines, speaking to us only through the glitches and the algorithmic chaff.
What if the next time the trail camera clicks on in that suffocatingly dark, midnight alpine desert, there's nothing there at all to block the starlight, just the violent tearing static of the machine recording a world we can no longer see?
It's definitely something to think about.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the strange anomalies in the world around you.